I remember seeing a 60 Minutes episode with Steve Jobs. He's talking about how if you line up a human against all the other species on Earth, they're middle of the road, efficient in getting from point A to point B. But you give that human a bicycle, they're the top of the list, better than the condor. That's when you realize humans are tool builders and a computer is a bicycle for the mind. Well, I got to thinking like, wait a minute, maybe this World Wide Web stuff at the time was a motorcycle for the mind. And that got me thinking currently, Sandy, like, what if AI isn't some alien life form, unprecedented business disruption? What if it's just a rocket ship for the mind?
Welcome to the Leader's Edge podcast. I'm Sandy Laycox, editor-in-chief of Leader's Edge. In this podcast, sponsored by Broker Tech Ventures, I talk with futurist and professor Mike Bechtel. Having previously served as chief futurist at Deloitte, global innovation director at Accenture, a venture capital co-founder, and an inventor, Mike has more than 25 years of experience with technology and innovation. We start our conversation talking about what's now, what's new, and what's next in tech.
As an inventor turned investor and now futurist and professor, I've had a 25-year front row seat to all things newfangled. I've learned about the art of the possible. I've learned about the art of the profitable. I've seen the difference between what you could do and you should do as regards newfangled tech. And I think one of the reasons I'm pumped to be here with you today is to really just help folks get a handle on what's now, what's new, what's next in emerging tech, but in a way that doesn't feel like a jargon fest, a hyperbole parade, but rather, let's look at the what, the so what, and the now what in a way that resonates with and hopefully provide some decision-making fuel for business leaders.
Tell us, before we get into it, tell us a little bit about that inventor, investor background and how you came to be with us in the insurance realm.
Oh, totally. It's filed under big world, small world collision. So I started my career as a research and development inventor sort of guy. For 12 years, working with Accenture Technology Labs, I worked with a team of creative technologists to build, newly patented corner case solutions to emerging corner case problems. It taught me a lot about the sort of, as I like to say, the art of the possible. Right? Here's all the neat stuff we might do with all these wonderful toys. Well, Sandy, coming off of the back of that experience, 12 years, 12 patents later,
Wow.
I thought, well, I'm probably pretty good at putting my money where my mouth is. I bet I could pick the ponies, right? Separate winners from losers, wheat from chaff. I'm going to start a venture firm. And so a couple of partners and I raised a few $1 million, and we went to work playing matchmaker between stuck enterprises and scrappy little startups that had unintentionally built a cure for what ailed them. That was a crash course in two things. One, understanding tech is just a small part of the deal, right? Profitability has to do with humans and decision making, leadership characteristics, business strategy. But two, it taught me firsthand the idea behind this great quote. William Gibson, he's a science fiction author. He said back in 1982, he said, "The future's already here. It's just not very evenly distributed." And what I learned was that what he was getting at was that there were things that are commonplace in one sector that are a revelation in another. And what I learned was that there was so much great stuff coming out of Silicon Valley, right? Coming out of media and entertainment, coming out of, the biotech space that was completely new to the insurance sector.
Yeah.
And so my first introduction to Broker Tech Ventures and into the sort of greater Iowa, insurance and insurtech scene was during that run as a VC when we essentially played, you know, we called it David and Goliath Incorporated. Bringing bigs in the insurance sector together with littles from everywhere else, and realize that there was a lot of magic in that mayhem.
We then take a step backward and look at the history of technology to better understand how best to use it today.
Before my futurist days or my investor days or even inventor days, when I was but a young geek, uh, I actually studied anthropology in college. And a variety of reasons. Like Goldilocks. I tried engineering. It was much too cold. I tried pre-law. Those people literally liked arguing for a living. That was much too hot.
Yeah.
Like, no thanks.
Yeah.
Anthropology was this chill
Yeah.
consideration of cultures and shared values, and like, okay, I'm a hippie kid. Let's do it.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I would go on, Sandy, to learn more about emerging technology and specifically the usefulness or value prop behind emerging technology from my archaeology professor than I would in any of my work as a innovation guy, future guy, venture guy. Here's the deal. I had this prof, his name was Jim Bellis. He he was a gem, right? He dearly departed, God bless him, but he in his prime, the version of Jim I remember, I mean, he was just this really high energy, high IQ Santa Claus figure. So just imagine like your professor is Santa, but he's not
Yeah.
bringing you presents, he's bringing you knowledge.
Yeah.
Anyway, this guy, Dr. B, he comes in one day, it's about 1996. He goes, technology is just a puffy-chested four-syllable synonym for tool. And he has my attention because I was a half engineer at the time. And he says, and we humans have been building tools from the jump. 2 million years ago, Homo habilis, our predecessor, sharpened up stone flakes, made the first blades, tools, to speed up the time it took to prepare your dinner. And here's where he got me, Sandy. He goes, and it was a hack.
Mm-hmm.
And I think hack, like computer hacker? Like what's he going on about? He goes, yeah, it was a hack. It freed your time for higher order pursuits. And I'm thinking, well, like what? He goes, well, like 4 million years later, with all that free time, we cooked up the first written language, right? The
Mm-hmm.
Sumerians, they built a hack to offload memory onto these stone tablets, right? The as my son called it, the original external hard drive. Okay, right. But but when he went on to teach us was that whether it was sharpening stones or offloading memory or the printing press, right? Removing the need to repeat yourself everywhere you go.
Yeah.
That all these technologies, even though they were dusty and old, they were hacks that would allow us to do better things, higher things, elevate. And so it was around that time, Sandy, that I remember seeing a 60 Minutes episode with Steve Jobs.
Mm-hmm.
And he's talking about how if you if you line up a human against all the other species on Earth, they're, middle of the road, efficient in getting from point A to point B, but you give that human a bicycle, they're the top of the list, better than the condor. And in Jobs himself, he goes, that's when you realize humans are tool builders and a computer is a bicycle for the mind. Well, I got to thinking, like, wait a minute. Maybe this World Wide Web stuff at the time was a motorcycle for the mind. And that got me thinking currently, Sandy, like, what if AI isn't some alien life form, unprecedented business disruption? What if, what if it's just a rocket ship for the mind? Resist the temptation to fear or revere
Mm-hmm.
emerging tech, right? Regardless of what the vendor or the consultant tells you, right? And I've been both. They're evolutions, they're not revolutions. They're the next page in a 2 million year book. They're merely force multipliers for our leadership ambitions. And so if you've got great ideas, you can use AI, you make a great plus plus, right? You've heard the term, Sandy, garbage in, garbage out.
Right.
We're in a moment now where it's garbage in, garbage squared. But
Mm-hmm.
on the flip side, it's genius in, genius squared. And so I think on balance, when I talk about a brief history of the future, right, what I'm really suggesting is the right way to make hay out of all this claptrap that's coming, right? This buzzword bingo we deal with as C-level executives is to take a breath and think, okay, where have I seen some of this movie before? Where were fortunes lost? Where were fortunes gained? And I think that's how adults profit from emerging tech.
Moving forward, Mike shares what he thinks is on the short-term tech horizon.
It's interesting, Sandy, since you know the middle of the 20th century, when most people think of tech at work,
Mm-hmm.
they're thinking of IT, information technology.
Right.
Uh, I sometimes call it infotech. So if you hear me say infotech, it's just because I'm
You're a real IT person.
yeah. Within infotech, within IT, there it tends to be about a three, four, five horse race. There's really only ever been about I'll call it five categories that matter. And I know five's a lot, especially if you just listen and you're in the car, you're like, oh God, here comes five things. But they're pretty straightforward, right? Like at the top of the stack, the thing we think about the most is interfaces, right? The UI, years ago it was punch cards, and then it was command line, right? Green. Some of us are old enough to remember, typing in little green letters on a black screen, and hoi. Some of us are
Go
still
to like
punished with interfaces like that at work sometimes.
right.
Oi. But that kind of gave way to icons and mice, right? And then that kind of gave way to phones, right? Click and type went to touch and swipe. And I think what we're seeing in the near term next at that layer is the slow, but I would argue somewhat inevitable rise of post screen interfaces. And so, what does that mean? Like the plainest possible terms, this could be things like smart glasses. Sandy, have you tried a pair of smart glasses yet? Have you like a Meta Ray-Ban
I've
situation?
seen them at VisionWorks, but I have not put them on.
Right on. I I had a colleague, one of my old consulting buddies. His name was Mark. We were trying these on together at a demo. It was specifically, it wasn't those, it was the Apple Vision Pro, the
Oh, like the
headset.
VR thing?
Yeah, right. Like the whole deal, the
Yeah,
the face computer, as it
the
were.
face computer, right?
Computers on your head. And I remember Mark, super super English, super brilliant, super gentleman. He looks around and he says, "Mike, there's simply no scenario where I could imagine wearing a toaster on my face to the office." And Sandy, he's right.
Okay.
He's right. But do, not to date you, but do you remember 8-track tapes?
Hmm.
Right. They were kind of bulky
Yeah.
and funky and not quite as good as LPs either, but they were a gateway tech. Well, a gateway tech might not be quite good,
Hmm.
but 8 tracks gave way to cassettes. And like almost like the Old Testament. And then the cassettes begat the mini disc, which begat the iPod, which begat every song in the world in your pocket at once.
Yeah.
Well, those toasters on your face beget incrementally less dorky glasses. And here's, business takeaway number 6, folks. Ray-Ban, which is actually owned by a company called EssilorLuxottica, they had their all-time stock high about 1 month ago. And in their earnings call, loudly and proudly, they're like, yeah, who would have thunk it? This this Meta AR VR overlay thing, it's not only a high growth rocket fuel, but it's high margin. People love it.
Mm-hmm.
And I asked my 19-year-old son, channeling his lingo, I was like, is this lit or is it mid?
Or is it mid?
Is it mid or worse, cringe? And and he's like, no, dude, it's fire.
It's
And I,
fire.
it's
Oh.
right. But and then I was like, did you just call me dude? But but I think the punchline is, Sandy, when you've got an SEC earnings call claiming that it's fire
Hmm.
and a 19-year-old who is apt to call things mid
Yeah.
agreeing, you've got a live one here. And so what I think we're starting to see is that in the same way, 10, 15 years ago, thoughtful C-level leaders dismissed cell phone interfaces as a fad,
Hmm.
right? And we're not going to bet the farm on mobile. That's crazy. People won't buy cars with their thumbs. And then they did, right? And the people who were late to the party paid a king's ransom to for being a slow follower, right? To catch up. And in the insurance space, we know the people who got there quick, usage-based insurance. Why not on your cell phone? Why not video claims, right?
Right.
I would say, dear leaders, resist the temptation to throw the baby out with the bathwater and dismiss your kid's Christmas present glasses as a toy. That's going to be your new customer interaction interface in about 5 to 10 years.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. To say
That.
nothing of conversational voice, that's the other one too. Like
Hmm.
smart speakers, talking to your watch, talking to your phone. Like now that GPT type brains are in I won't say it because I want to set off our listeners' devices, but your devices,
Hmm.
um, there's going to be less and less things you need to click and clack to call up. You'll just talk. Like the old Star Trek ship's computer. I remember 5 years ago, Sandy, I'd talk to clients. I'm like, that's coming. And it dawned on me a few months ago. I'm like, I mean, imagine just a bit of brainstorming with purpose here, but if and again, back to this conceit that futurists are historians. If we time travel back 15 years, and I remember some of the first discussions I'd had with major carriers around usage-based insurance,
Hmm.
and we can pull out all the old terms of our age, telematics,
Right. Right.
tele,
Censored.
100%, right? And they're all the right terms. They just feel anachronistic. But a um a phone is a meaningful requisite to an improved risk categorization, right? Might have felt like a stretch 10, 15 years ago. I know myself, like I raised my hand and joined the surveillance state so that my family could save $1,200 every 6 months. Why not? Imagine these tools we're discussing. Smart glasses being a requirement for an even deeper discount. Like, hey,
Hmm.
unless we, the carrier, can see what you see, we're going to put you in a different risk pool.
Hmm.
And, you know, I can guarantee I'm not the first Jamoke who's thought of this one, but it's that recognition that as odd as some of those ideas feel, so too did usage-based insurance 10 years ago, and so too did, machine learning analytics as an augmentation to actuarial science field 20 years ago.
We then turn to an industry hot topic, data centers. Mike discusses their extraordinary energy use and how we are building society's brain.
When you think about when you think about where the action is, and I mean, you just signaled it, right? The big buyer of land and needer of energy is the data center.
Yep.
And I was at an energy industry conference in Houston about maybe 9 months ago that really changed my thinking and kind of flipped the script on this one and what it means for business leaders. Somebody said, somebody said, if you think about the human body, our brain makes up about 3% of our body weight for most of us, right? Um, there's a joke in there somewhere, but we'll we'll stick with 3%. Um, he said, but in terms of calories, energy need, right? Energy expenditure. Your brain consumes 20 to 25% of your noggin or your body's calorie needs. That's why when if you have an Apple Watch or similar and you wonder like how come a hard workout day only grows my red ring by like
Yeah.
30%, is because your brain is the big baseline consumer. Okay.
Hmm.
Well, here's where I'm going with this. If you think of AI as society's brain, right? Like just like you think, and this is gonna pardon the metaphor, but it's helpful. Like an ant colony, an individual ant is okay, but it's the colony that's smart. It's the society brain of the ants where the intelligence really sits.
Hmm.
A lot of research scientists believe that what we're really doing with AI is we're building society's brain.
Hmm.
And if you can buy that, then kind of the next thing that you realize is we're just at the beginning of energy usage and need for those data centers. Because if the human brain uses 20% of the juice, you look at these data center charts, you're like, data centers now consume 1.5% of American electricity and with room to grow.
Yeah.
And so I think the business leader takeaway here is um, don't write this one off as a quirky, like we were just joking, like as a quirky, COVID era patio heater fad.
Right, right.
Look at this as the beginning of a new chapter where, a lot like the Apollo program,
Hmm.
right? A meaningful share of national GDPs is going to go into feeding and supporting nation state level brains. And not only is that going to be a huge capital expenditure, but yeah, a huge risk to be managed, a huge source of policy,
Yeah.
innovation. It's wild.
Yeah. Reflecting on the massive business changes being brought about by I ask Mike if there is anything else that is on the same scale of importance for business leaders to be aware of.
I do think AI is in a category of one as regards like you know, big area of capital expenditure, of
Yeah.
operational expenditure and focus. Okay. That said, there's some others. Um, a biggie is going to increasingly be quantum.
Mm-hmm.
Now, quantum's a tricky one because with spatial computing, AR, VR, face computers, call it what you will. Or how about this as a term? Post-screen interfaces.
Oh gosh. I like face computers.
I kind of do too. Or we could use Mark's term, toasters on your head.
Toasters on your head is also good.
But we, all of us, no matter how nerdy you are, all of us have grown up with little tastes of virtual reality, right? We all remember that one Christmas present that you used for 3 weeks and it wasn't that great. Or, I mean, even Nintendo had a VR boy in like the 90s or something nuts, right? But we've had little dribs and drabs of that up to current. And so we can feel like it's not completely alien.
Yeah.
Quantum is completely alien. Every computer we've ever built, right? From Charles Babbage and Ada Lovelace back in the 1800s in London with the first calculator, it's called the difference engine, to the New Jersey scientists building ENIAC back in the 40s, to Alan Turing, like every computer ever, up through the whiz bang stuff running the AI. It's using at its core math, binary zeros and ones, right? And we, regardless of your educational background, we all remember some class somewhere. We're like, underneath, it's all zeros and ones, binary logic, blah, 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 blah.
Yeah.
Quantum computers, at their core, quantum computers say, we don't need no math. We're not gonna use math. We use physics. If you drop let's say you bop 40 nails into a wooden board and you dip it in soapy water and you lift the board out, this is wild, right? The soap bubbles will show you the shortest route between those nails, right? Because it's just soap bubbles. That's what they do. This is bubbles. And the bubbles didn't go to Harvard, right? The bubbles didn't study actuarial science or pass any exams. They're just bubbles because it's not math, it's physics. It's surface
Right.
tension. So
Right.
quantum computers, just think of them as like this soapy water that you dip the most wicked problems you've ever seen into, whoosh, and you pull it out and it goes, well, there's the answer, right? But it's finicky and it's not quite ready. And, my analogy is not quite right. And, et cetera, et cetera. But everything from risk calculations, portfolio optimization, float calculation, uh, then bad stuff too, like password cracking. Uh, that stuff's child's play for the bubbles.
Right.
And so I think that's going to be the other kind of the yin to the yang of AI is AI is going to be sort of the big focus. And then all of a sudden we're going to start to see this nation state grade focus on quantum because
Mm-hmm.
we don't want bad actors, corporate actors, or God forbid, nation state actors breaking all of our, digital fortresses because they've got the first bubble machine.
Finally, Mike shares some closing takeaways and some interesting news about blockchain.
I mentioned these five areas earlier. Like any sticklers in the audience who are like, he's only talked about two and a half. Here's what I would tell you. Interfaces, they're going to get simpler. We've discussed that with the post screens, right? AI, we're going to get smarter, right? Building society's brain, great. Computers are going to get stronger, right? Which we've just discussed with quantum, right? Those are the first three. I think the flip side is that means defenses are going to need to get more robust, right? And so that's where quantum proof cryptography comes in. That's where things like blockchain, maybe a little bit of a hot take, maybe a little bit of a contrarian point of view, but not that contrarian. Blockchain based tech or decentralized computing, right? And words matter, but I don't want to be like too precious and dorky with the language. Decentralized computing, the idea behind blockchain tech, which is itself the idea under Bitcoin and friends. What's so fascinating about that world is it's part of a broader movement in computer science that says, listen, what if what if none of us is as trustworthy as all of us? What if, in the same way the 17th century, you know, moved to the 18th century by giving up the idea of, in God we trust, and by that that's not a challenge to faith, right? Rather, Thomas Hobbes and John Locke, the political guys, they wrote a book like Leviathan. And the whole idea was like, listen, we're not going to get smoked by lightning bolts, which is why we need militaries and jails and taxes. Like, because it needs to be in state we trust.
Right,
Okay.
right.
That got us through about 200 years. And the following, hashtag not a political comment, but a lot of people around the world have this feeling right now. We're like, I don't know if I trust the state. State's weird. Like everybody's weird. It's red, blue, up, down, black, white. It's all yee, zero,
Mm-hmm.
one.
Yep.
And so what we're starting to see, Sandy, is the quiet emergence of this third act in math we trust. And what's quietly happening with blockchain is it had a horrible moment between Sam Bankman-Fried, SBF, FTX,
Yeah.
NFTs, like all these
Yeah.
acronyms that together felt like
Right. Right.
prison. Like it all felt like
Yeah.
jail.
Together it spells prison.
Yeah, like self-respecting business leaders stop talking about it. Like the patio heater, it was just like, remember blockchain? That was a stinker, yes. But it's coming back.
Mhm.
And it's starting with like, if you take the 5 year, the 15-year look at Bitcoin,
Yeah.
it's not a get rich quick scheme. It's sort of sitting there in contrast to sort of money printing, monetary inflation,
Mm-hmm.
governmental wobbliness, and
Mm-hmm.
Bitcoin's up and to the right. One of my clients is a newspaper organization in Scandinavia. Now this is total like mind stretcher. We promised a little of that.
Yeah.
They're using blockchain based tech by giving their war photographers, right? Their photographers down in the Ukraine They have special cameras that record the time, latitude, longitude, but a a cryptographic hash. That's just geek speak for like a little blockchain code. Why? So when that picture shows up in the New York Times or the WAPO or the Guardian or the Post, pick your poison. When that picture shows up, nobody can say fake news. Nobody can say that's spin, that's Photoshop, that's AI, that's a deep fake. No, because whereas in my generation, maybe you're Sandy, we'd use that phrase like a pics or it didn't happen, bro. The next generation is gonna be like, dude, chain or it didn't happen. Like if it's not on a decentralized ledger, I don't believe you.
Wow.
And that has nothing to do with SBF, FTX, get rich quick. That has everything to do with the idea that none of us is as trustworthy as all of us, that one company's database is that company's opinion, man. I think, what is that, Big Lebowski? Like
Yes, that was Big Lebowski.
that's just like your opinion, man. Whereas a decentralized blockchain-based tech, that becomes a master data management framework for the planet, for the
Hmm.
species. And it feels a little bit like, nanu nanu right now in 2025, but check out amazing books like The Network State by Balaji Srinivasan, where he's saying, listen, there's entrepreneurs right now building a post cloud, post corporate, post nation state future that entirely lives on chain. And again, we don't hear about it as enterprise business leaders because that whole space felt like it kind of went away 2 years ago, but it's thundering along.
That was futurist and Professor Mike Bechtel. I hope you enjoyed our conversation, sponsored by Broker Tech Ventures. For more Leaders Edge podcasts, visit us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you listen to podcasts.